Approaching 21 seasons in the NBA, Chris Paul has seen it all. From the league ownership level to competing on championship caliber teams as a 12-time NBA All-Star. And now, as he winds down his career, he's getting more serious about business off the court and making a big change. We'll explain. You're in the Enterprise Zone in our Forbes studio. It's Jabari Young here in the Enterprise Zone. Only thing is, we're not in the NASDAQ. We're in our Forbes studio, and it's because Chris Paul, he's out in L.A., right? He's the guest on this episode, and he is getting ready for another NBA season, fresh off of signing a one-year deal with the Los Angeles Clippers. Chris, it is so phenomenal to have you back on the show, my brother. A lot of things to talk about. You got something special going on, but before I get into all that, man, how's the summer going now that you officially know what you're going to be and where you're going to be next year?
Summer's amazing, man. Getting some great time with the family. Ready for this next season. It's just it's great. It's a good time. My kids are really at that age now where they really coming into their own. So it's just been great to be around them.
Yeah, all the retirement questions, they've stopped for now, right? Does it feel good to ask for people to finally stop saying, hey, are you coming back next season? You coming back next season? We know where you're going to be. You're going to be out in L.A. with Steve Ballmer at the Intuit Dome.
Yeah, it does. It does. It feels good to know that, I can be where my feet are, right?
Yeah.
My feet are right here, back here at home with my family, with the Clippers, where I played for 6 seasons in a different arena that I played in, the Intuit Dome, like you said, with Steve Ballmer, T. Lue, Kawhi, James, Brad Beal. It's a ton of great players, so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, I always got to start the show, even though I'm not at the NASDAQ, we're in our Forbes studio, man. You got to give me a stock, right? What's something that's been working? Last time we spoke, you told me you was going to buy some Chevron stock. Did you complete that deal yet? Is it all done?
You know, it's crazy. Not yet. Not yet.
Oh,
Not
man.
yet. Definitely got the colors on today, though, right? And I got
Yeah.
my Chevron hat sitting right up here in my office.
Yeah. What's been working well for you in 2025, though, man, when you look into your portfolio?
Funny. Obviously, NVIDIA, like everybody else, is up, but also Kinross Gold, that's up 106%. Yeah, 106%. That's a mining company or whatnot. So that's something you should definitely look into.
Yeah, getting into the gold before people were able to buy it. You mining it first, and then it gets to the shelves, and you're going to make the profit back. That's really insane, man. Mining gold.
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
okay, cool. Well, listen, man, soundtrack to 2025, right? I mean, listen, you're coming off of playing with the Spurs. Definitely want to tap your brain on that a little bit. And now you're entering now a whole new dynamic where you're going back to where you came from with the Los Angeles Clippers. But what's been this soundtrack to 2025? What's been keeping you motivated? What's been keeping you creative all this time?
Man, you know what it is? It's gospel music. Gospel music. I listen to gospel music day in and day out. It's funny, over the course of a season, it's really ups and downs or whatnot. And I tell you, you get to this life that you dreamed of as a kid, and it's the one thing that has really kept me, grounded my entire career, is not forgetting where I came from. So I'm constantly listening to gospel music, but I'd be lying if I didn't say, that good old Kirk Franklin, and then Mary, Can't Give Up Now. I write that on my shoes, but I listen to it constantly because even though I turned 40 this year, 40 years old this year, I'm still that 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid that's in my church back home, listening to those gospel songs and looking at, the elders and my family members, just being grateful for where you are.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, grateful for where you are. Again, signing that one-year deal with the Los Angeles Clippers, $3.6 million reportedly what it's worth. What convinced you to go back? I know in previous interviews you were talking about, listen, being without your family. And me and you kind of talked about that on the side about how important that is, especially when your kids are growing older. Because by the time they get to 18, they don't want to be around you no more. So it's important to capitalize on these years. But was that the main factor, just going back to LA to be around your family?
That was definitely the main factor. Jabari, as man, you talked about having kids and having family. I grew up around all my family as a kid, right? I did the same things every week, every weekend, every Christmas Eve we did at my great-grandfather's church, right? We did all those different things. And so at my grandfather's church, it was wild the past 6 years not getting to see my family, and my kids, how quick they change and how fast they change. And obviously this is NASDAQ, Forbes, and everything, and everyone's talking about wealth and money and all these different things. But the most valuable thing that we have is time.
That's right.
You know, I've lost a lot of valuable time, obviously sacrifice, and many people do that throughout their lives, and to each his own. But I knew that, you know, this time now with my kids is very valuable, so I cherish it.
Yeah. Does it make it more special too that you're going back to playing for a franchise, obviously you've played before,
Um,
but also an owner and I guess a friend and Steve Ballmer, man. I mean, one of the more dynamic owners, but as you do transition more into business, I would imagine having somebody so successful like that in business to, continue to pick his brain up close now is probably beneficial.
It's unbelievably beneficial, and it's so cool, like I said, not to just be playing back living with my family, but to be with a fan base that I'm familiar with. You know, I was with the Clippers when Steve actually bought the team.
Hmm.
Right. So I remember that. I remember his inaugural season, right? And him getting welcomed into the NBA. And I remember asking him so many questions back then, and he's been nothing but an open book. One time in the CBA negotiations, we were talking in the room with all the different owners, and we were talking about how it's been unfortunate that players lose money and stuff like that over the years. And so in that meeting, I challenged all the owners. I said, we all as teams are required to do these business of basketball meetings. And a lot of times people come into these meetings and talk to us about money that have never had money. So it's a lot of times hard for guys to stay focused in those meetings because guys end up on their phones and, not paying attention. So I said, why don't you guys, you know, do the meetings yourselves, right? If you guys, as the owners of these teams, go into the meetings and talk to us, I guarantee you we listen. I'll never forget. I went back and I told Steve about that meeting. That very next team awareness meeting we had, he did it himself. And I
Wow.
never forget, me and all my teammates, we sat at that table, not one phone was out, and we were very attentive because, even though there are a lot of kids who look up to us and want to be us, all of the players that come along in these leagues, a lot of times we look up to these different owners and want to someday hopefully achieve that.
Yeah. What year was this, man, that this took place? Because it's hard to walk into a room nowadays, Chris, and you don't see people with their phone out. So I'm trying to imagine what it was like to see everybody with their phone down because it was a guy like Steve Ballmer, one of the 20th richest people in all the world, depending on what day it is talking.
Yeah, I don't know what year it was. I have to look it up because a lot of these years run together. But it was really dope. And we sat around the table and Steve allowed us to ask questions. Because if you really look at professional sports and all of this stuff, that it really should be a partnership.
Yeah.
It has to be communication, there has to be dialogue, right? So when players are going out signing autographs and doing all this stuff, they understand the purpose behind it, right?
Yeah.
So we should all understand how we all benefit from the growing of this game. And I appreciate Steve for that then. Obviously, I've been away for a number of years now or whatnot, but I'm excited about being able to pick his brain again.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to bury the lead, man. Definitely want to switch to what you have going on off the court. But before that, you're going into your 21st season, Chris. Only 6 players have achieved 20 or more years, right? LeBron obviously still going. Vince Carter, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett, Kevin Willis, the Chief, Robert Parrish, one of my all-time favorites, man, that have played more than 20 years. You're joining a very, very, very small class. As you are continuing to go, and I know you want to be where your feet is, the gratitude is one of your favorite words, but has it sunk in yet that you are entering an elite class of players? Because pulling off that amount of time playing sports is unheard of in most professions.
Still just in it, right? I never really get a chance to stop and think about it because I'm up. I was in the gym this morning at 6 a.m., and I'm sure there'll be some time where I'm like, dang, it has been a long time, but I just keep being thankful. Seriously, I know you said it already, but I just keep trying to continue to show up every day.
Yeah. Basketball aside now, man, jumping into some business, Forbes exclusive in a way. You're kind of combining your business entities, investments, nonprofit, businesses that you've owned, the snack brand, Ohh Dip Productions, and you are creating the Chris Paul Collective, right? This business vehicle will be operating a lot of your business ventures, most of them investments and what have you. Take me inside of the Chris Paul Collective, man. What does it mean? Why are you doing it now? What's the idea behind the Chris Paul Collective?
It's funny. The collective is really just the next evolution of everything that I've been doing and building over the last 20 years, right? So the last 20 years, I've had an opportunity to be a part of so many different business ventures, so many different conversations, and all these different things that I've learned from different teams, from being the president of the union. And so just, now trying to make sure everything is moving in the right direction for what's next.
Yeah. When you look inside, right? Again, take me inside of this. When did it hit you that this was the next move to expanding your business? Because again, your career is winding down, Chris. I can't see you playing another 21 years, right? Somewhere along these next,
No, never,
somewhere
never.
along these next, you officially will say, hey, it's been real. But when you're looking inside the Chris Paul Collective, what are you preparing for? I know last time we spoke, you said you want to be an NBA owner. What is the Chris Paul Collective allowing you to prepare for down the road?
It's allowing me to prepare for, right? I'm still playing. I'm still in it right now. But the different entities that I have, Playbook Group, Good Eating, my Chris Paul Family Foundation, all these different things, it allows us to continue to grow and build and expand. I think that's what the goal is and what we're trying to do, trying to find like-minded people who have great ideas. I think over my career, um, the only reason I've been able to play this long is to continue to learn, right? Continue to learn. I think everyone's always like, we're going to bring him in because he knows so much. Well, I do have a lot of institutional knowledge, but I'm excited about learning. So
Yeah.
find like-minded people to build and grow with.
We were talking earlier too, man, about the structure of it all, right? Throughout your career, you've been asked to come in, help teams prepare. One of the key moments in Oklahoma City. I don't know why they haven't given you a ring. A lot of those young guys, you prepared, and now they are now world champions, right? But Chris Paul had an impact on some of those young guys there, right? And then you go to San Antonio, Phoenix, and what have you throughout your career. You've been asked to bring this element of not only basketball IQ, but how to be a structured professional, a vet, right? At the league level as well. When you were, president of the Players Association, and always being tapped for that type of structure. And here you are putting that structure on the Chris Paul Collective. Where's that fuel at? When did it hit you that, I got to start to get my affairs off the court more structured?
Well, what happened was, I came into the NBA when I was 19, right? When you come into the NBA, you've been in the backyard, acting like MJ, acting like Kobe, shooting fadeaways, not thinking about business.
Mm.
But being thrust, my third year, I got on to the executive committee, right, and got to start sitting in these rooms. And I was really amazed at all of the behind the scenes and all the business that goes into the game, right? And then when I became president of the union, that really was eye-opening. We didn't have an executive director, so had to do interviews, had to do hires. We went through a pandemic and organizing the bubble from day one to the end of it, being a part of all those different phone calls. And it's interesting. Like I said, over the years, I've been fortunate enough, like I said, to work on so many different things and helping different teams and helping the league. And I was just like, it's time for me to make sure that I focus on, my my brand, my team, and how we can grow and build.
Is it like a selfish moment here where you had to say, hey, you know what? I've helped the league a lot. They're in a very good place, right? $70+ billion TV deal. The CBA is secure. Is it time to start being selfish, Chris Paul, now, and again start to worry about, life after basketball?
Honestly, it is. It is to a certain extent, but I'm always going to be who I am, right? I'm always going to be who I am, and that is a connector. I've always connected people. I've always I've never been a hoarder of information, right? So with this Chris Paul Collective, I think there's a way to grow and do it all, right? There's a way to make sure that my business is straight and organized and everything, but there is a way to continue to grow and scale and figure out what else is out there.
Well, a couple of the verticals you are taking underneath the Chris Paul Collective, right? You have the Good Eating. Has some, production or some distribution through Walmart, if I'm not mistaken. And then
Yep.
you also had a line with HEB, right? I would imagine you going to San Antonio. That HEB connection is very real, right? And that's a good line to be in, and a good store to be in. But, take me right now. First, let's talk about Good Eating. Where are you at with that snack brand? What are you hoping to do with it? How's the Chris Paul Collective going to push this brand forward?
Well, hopefully we continue to get into other retailers and continue to grow and scale that. It's such a fun brand, something different that I think not only kids, parents, and everybody can get behind, but continue to grow that. Um, Obviously, Walmart, HEB, and we'll continue to see what's next with that.
Yeah, the production company, Ohh Dip. I think one of the more unique, business verticals that you have, because I was watching a previous interview you did, and everyone is getting into production, now, right? Everybody has their own production. We're in a content is king era, and here you are, with Ohh Dip Entertainment, and you're with the North Road company, if I'm not mistaken, and that's the same house that has Omaha Productions. What are you looking to do with Ohh Dip Entertainment, man? What's your vision? Because a production company, you can get a lot of credits, but you can also get those bad credits. If your name is on a couple of films and productions and documentaries that are trash, then Ohh Dip Entertainment becomes what, right? What is your vision with Ohh Dip Entertainment? And again, how's the Chris Paul Collective going to help that advance?
Yeah, we're going to continue to try to tell stories, right? Stories that we believe that can move the culture, and also speak of stories that people that sometimes can't tell their own stories. And we're fortunate enough to partner with Connor Shell at Words and Pictures, who's an amazing storyteller, and we'll continue to have fun with that. And we got some fun stuff coming soon.
How about, looking at the line of the Playbook Group, right? This is another business vertical that you have. You're trying to develop. I almost kind of look at it like, man, maybe this is the basketball version of what Kyle Ripken is doing on the baseball field with grassroots in baseball, developing different organizations, grassroots organizations, and getting more kids involved in the game. And you yourself, man, just being on the phone with NBA scouts and understanding that they have put your camp as one of the more elites, right? And here you are now trying to create a business with it, with the Playbook Group. Take me inside of that particular idea and what you're looking to do. And again, how the Chris Paul Collective is going to help that advance.
Youth sports is a huge business. Is a huge business, and I have a very unique outlook, because I can still remember being a kid playing on all these travel teams, and my dad spent his entire 401k on us, me and my brother, playing travel basketball. But I think the Playbook Group, whereas we're able to do the formatting and everything for all these different events, I think there's so much more there, right? There's the infrastructure, there's everything around it, there's the parking, there's all these different things and all these different aspects to the grassroots component. We do camps, we do regional camps, there's kids camps, and there's so many different levels of travel basketball. I think everyone always wants to talk about the AAU, right? But there's so many different elements of it. You got elite basketball, you have junior EYBL, you have so much to youth sports that I think we have a very good knack and ability to tap into it.
Yeah. What else, man? Again, you're a team owner, Angel City FC, right? You're an investor in that, right? You have a cricket team in India, if I'm not mistaken, investor in that, right? The basketball tournament, the soccer tournament, these entities also will be housed under the Chris Paul Collective.
Yeah, so like I said, it's funny to hear all these different things, because a lot of people say, well, "Damn, how you find time to hoop too?" But I
I was
think
going to say, how do you do managing all of this stuff?
It's funny, and that's why a team is so important.
That's
That's
right.
why a team is so important, and that's what we're doing over at the Chris Paul Collective. With all these different entities, I have an amazing team who's been with me for years, and I'm excited about our new president, David Schwab, who will head that. And so it's all about teamwork. I always say, fortunately for me, I'm not a tennis player or a golfer. Well, I do that on the side, but I've always played on a team. So
Yeah.
understanding that I may have to pass off to this guy so he can shoot it, or pass it to this guy so he can dunk it. So understanding that you don't do it all on your own. And that's what we want to do at the Chris Paul Collective, is understand that there are partnerships and brands and things out there. And I want to be able to use that connectivity that I've been able to use throughout my entire career.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned David Schwab, right? Because you talk about team and looking at the leadership front. He's your president, right? This is a
Yeah.
former executive at Octagon, the sports agency over that way. Did you know he was a former Forbes contributor too? Did you know he was also a former Forbes
Did,
writer?
didn't know
Um,
that. Didn't know that.
yeah, you go. Why David Schwab? I mean, there's a whole bunch of people that's going to look and says, "Man, he chose him. Why didn't he choose me?" Why David Schwab to bring on as the president to kind of run the Chris Paul Collective while you continue your
Yeah,
career?
because I met and talked and saw what he had done when he was at Octagon, and he built a business within Octagon that showed athletes and different brands how they could connect and how they could share and how they could benefit each other, right? So we met, talked for a long time, and it's been a fun, exciting time, and I'm excited about what's next.
What's the trait that hits you though, right? Because you don't just hire somebody because you know him and he has these great ideas. Like it had to be something that clicked with you that says, "Yeah, this is my guy right here." What was that you saw in him?
Yeah, obviously business is one thing, but you know this and I know this too. When you're working with somebody, you know how important it is, numbers and all these different things, how you think about things, but I also can tell a lot about someone the way they talk about their family, you know. And so for me, that's always been the beginning and end with me, right? Is family. And so the business, will take care of itself if everyone puts their best foot forward and do what they're supposed to do. But that's one little note that someone gave me years ago. Might have been Frank, my financial advisor. He says, I can tell you a lot about somebody if you walk in their office and you just see a whole bunch of degrees and all this stuff and not pictures of their family. So
Mm, that's deep. So as a guy who's an investor, if I'm meeting with people and I'm in their office, I should go around, or any investor should go around and make sure that there's that family element there. What does that tell you?
for you, everyone's different, right? Everyone's different, right? Someone who's not like that, they might make you a lot of money, and that might be good and well. But for someone who I think that's gonna have to work that close to
Mm.
me and my inner circle, yeah, I really pay attention to that.
What's the one thing that people still, maybe you haven't even spoke about, that you still are learning about business? Because you've been in the league 21 years, right? We spoke, you've seen things at a number of levels, Chris. And until you corrected me, I ain't gonna front, man. I may have thought LeBron had that basketball knowledge more, but you corrected me. I'm not. You corrected me. You've seen it all, from being traded to being having a trade be upheld, and so the league says no, you can't even do that, right? Going through and being displaced on a team, the pandemic, the problems that the Clippers dealt with Donald Sterling. You've seen things at a number of levels, man. But what are you still learning on the business end?
Constantly learning, constantly learning. I say this all the time is that when I came into the league, I hoped that I would have been like Kobe, right? And played for one team my whole career. Same thing with Dirk, right? Played for one team his whole career. A number of guys have had that opportunity. And when you get traded or you leave, you be like, damn, man, I thought I was going to be there my whole career. The benefit that I've had, I've been able to go to all these different teams and a lot of really, really good teams too. I got a chance to learn. I got a chance to learn. So I haven't seen everything one way, right? I started out in New Orleans, well, actually in Oklahoma City, played my first 6 years with New Orleans, and I saw the way that we traveled. I saw the way practice was every single day. I saw the way this coach coached, right? I had a coach change. Then I went to the Clippers, right? I got a chance to see how we travel, how the team does this, how the team did this. Then I went to Houston, right? And it goes on and on and on. And all these different teams that I've had an opportunity to go to, I'm always learning. I'm always learning. I'm paying attention to how many people are in the traveling party. You know what I mean? How much money, like to be honest with you, I usually always get pretty close to the equipment guys with the teams, right? Just somehow, some way. Big Shot was my guy back when I was in New Orleans. Then Wilson was in Oklahoma. My guy Tone in Houston. E. Housen was in Golden State. Um, I'm tripping. My guy in Phoenix. Oh, I'm
Mm.
tripping. But all of these people, right? Because they spend so much time at the arena, right? Like when we get back from a road trip, those are the people who unload the bags. We go home and they have to go back to the arena. But I constantly ask them questions like, how much money do we spend on food, right, on this road trip? much money do we spend over the course of a season on food, right? So I've always asked all these questions, right? For that foresight that someday I definitely want to be on the ownership side.
Yeah, so you can know how much not to spend or how much to. The Speed Bomber is. I don't think he asked. I know he actually was when he was building the Intuit Dome had to think about spending more money to get more sneaker stalls in there for y'all, right? This man ain't thinking about money. Are you asking so that way you can kind of know where your cost is, and or are you looking because you just trying to get an idea?
I'll tell you this. One thing that I learned in being in this for so long, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm,
Right? You don't know what you don't know. And because I do these camps and things like that year in and year out, I'm around a lot of young kids all the time, right? I've been in the locker rooms for the last 20, 21 years, right? Even before that, when I was in college. So when I do my camps during the summer, I always bring all the kids into a room, right? One of the days of camp, no coaches allowed, just the NBA players, college players, and high school players. And I let them ask questions, whatever they want to ask, because a lot of these kids now are thrust with the financial responsibility of these NIL deals, and they're getting this money with no awareness, right? But if you got Instagram and social media, all these kids they want to be able to fly private, they want to be able to do this. But if nobody ever explains to them how much it costs to fly private, a lot of these kids don't know how much a house costs. They don't know how much a car costs, right? They just getting the money with no awareness, right? So I'm in these different locker rooms and all these different things. I'll never know how much a team spends on food over a season if I don't ask. I'm asking because I don't know. Right. So when me and Steve walked through into it, I'm asking questions. How much did it cost to put that screen in the middle? Right. Because like I said, just like there's all levels to this stuff, like, right? Like the kids don't know how much a car costs. The only way they'll ever know is if somebody tells them. So I got to be open-minded and ask these questions when I'm walking through an arena.
yeah, yeah, that's important. We were talking about normalizing, talking about money in the locker room when you first came into the NBA. I don't know how different it was, but have you seen any improvements about guys talking about money in the locker room, or is it still almost a taboo?
It's still pretty taboo, to tell you the truth. I think it's coming around. I think Andre Iguodala at the Union, is doing a really good job of making sure he get in front of these guys because he's been in the locker room his entire career and he's seen it. Most guys in the locker room, talking about cars, music, women, all these different things. Um, a lot of times people it's not just locker room. I think it's life. I think it's men. I think it's all of us, especially African American men. A lot of times people don't talk about finance, right? So it's something that we got to normalize. We got to normalize talking about finance and money.
Yeah. Well, take me back, man, because one of the original deals, I've been always curious about what people have learned over their course of their career as well as the course of their business dealings. Do you remember your first ever NBA deal, not contract, but side deal off of the court, away from basketball that you got as Chris Paul, the player? You remember that deal?
Absolutely. I
What
remember
deal was that?
it was my Nike deal,
Nike deal. What
my
year
shoe
did that
deal,
come?
my Nike deal, my shoe deal, and
What
uh,
year was that?
that was 2005.
2005, you come and you sign your Nike deal. What's Chris Paul like when he's signing that Nike deal? What are you looking to learn? And you look at from 2005 to 2025 now, right? What have you learned in that time from signing that Nike deal to now?
I learned so much, and you have to think about it. Nike is still my partner now, right? From 2005 to now, Nike Jordan, brand Jordan, is still my partner now, going into my 21st season. So I've learned a lot. My third year, I got a chance to have my own shoe. So then that changed also because now I have my own shoe. So now you have royalties, right? So you have a different type of stake in the game, right? And so when you go on these different tours or whatnot, you also get a sheet that can show you if you're interested. And I was interested in all the information, right? I wanted to see where I was selling most of my shoes at. And most of my shoes were sold in China. So I would do a China tour every summer. And on one of my China tours, I actually took a few hour ride outside of one of the cities and visited Shoe Town, which is where they actually made my shoe. And so to go to the factory and to see my shoe be made from beginning to end, and to see how important those relationships are. Because anybody who knows, who's been in the shoe business, it probably takes a longer amount of time now, but back then it might have took if you wanted a new shoe, a special shoe, it might have took like 6 weeks, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. But just by me visiting Shoe Town and those people seeing that I took the time to come over there, I remember, hitting my Jordan rep, being like, yo, let's see if we can do this colorway. And maybe it might have been 2 to 3 weeks. Right. And so even back then at a young age, it showed me how relationships matter.
Yeah. 2011 too, man. You were in an interview and you said, when you were starting to do the State Farm commercials, how you would start to pick up ideas about production, right? What about that State Farm relationship? Have you, maybe it has improved your understanding of how production work that you hope to apply to Ohh Dip Entertainment?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I'll be forgetting about all this stuff, right? Like,
You ain't so involved in so many businesses, Chris.
but it's the State Farm commercials were very eye-opening because it shows you, when you're the talent, right? But if you're on your trailer and that's all you're paying attention to, then that's one thing, right? But while I'm on set, I'm paying attention to um, the assistant AD, the person who's coming to get me, to tell me to come to set. I'm watching all the cameras and everything that goes around. I'm watching the agency, right? And how they are set up, and it's all the details that go into it that I've always been intrigued by, right? Back when I played in New Orleans, that's when I realized that people film a lot of movies in Louisiana. And I was a young kid. I was like, why? And then I found out it was because of tax breaks. Yep. So I used to get out of practice and go sit on the set of different movies that was being shot, which is how I met Tim Story. Tim Story back then, he was shooting a movie called Hurricane Season. And so I've just always been very, very curious, right? Seriously. And that's what gets me most excited about the Chris Paul Collective with business and all in what's next.
Yeah. Are you looking into adding any crypto lines? I mean, AI is a big buzzword still. Are you looking at any AI companies, or do you have any that's going to be rolled up into this Chris Paul Collective as
AI
well?
is a big buzzword and something that I definitely look into. I've actually had an opportunity to go to a few events and looking into things, but those will all be part of the discussion so we can figure out if there's something we want to tap into.
Well, you're a vet now, man. A rookie comes up to you and they say, Chris, man, I've seen what you're doing, off the court. I'm watching the Chris Paul Collective. Why should I, follow in your footsteps and maybe start my own business vehicle to house my own things? What do you tell these young kids who may come in and try to pick your brain about business before you leave?
That's a great question because I am in a locker room with a lot of young guys. And honestly, if a guy comes to me and asks me that, it will be a longer conversation. The beginning of the conversation would be make sure you keep the main thing the main thing, right?
Which is
So
basketball?
exactly, basketball. See, what has given me the opportunity to do this for a long time is the basketball, right? So if you come into this thing and you get too focused on the business, right? You gotta make sure you keep the main thing, right? But while you're doing that, you can get people in place, get people on your team or whatnot. I'm grateful to have my older brother CJ, who's been leading my team since day one, right? That's been the coolest thing is that I never had to worry about from day one if the guy who was right next to me wanted to be me or wanted to try to take something from me, right? So I've been able to build all these things over the years with my older brother right next to me.
Yeah. Does it feel, and I won't put your business out there, man. It's public, but it's public information, though, Chris. Don't beat me up, man, when you see me, right? But does it feel like you made over 400 million in your career? I know the taxes and all that stuff, man, and it may not be a real number, but you go to Spot Track and you track it and it says Chris Paul has made over $400 million in his NBA career. That's what it says, right? Does it feel that way?
Nah, I don't know. Nah, it don't feel that way. I'll tell you that much.
No, it doesn't at all.
It's crazy. It's an unbelievable blessing, man. But I tell you, for years and years, honestly, and this may not be the cool thing to say, but for years and years early in my career, I had no idea how much I was making, right? I didn't know. Like, I just love to play that much. And I still love to play, you know, that much. But it is wild when you hear it. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, I was with 400. Now, That leads us to the next question, right? Because we were able to name Julian Bridgman a billionaire before he died. God bless his life, right? You got Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Magic Johnson, Junior Bridgman as billionaires. Is that a goal of yours to be a billionaire one day, or are you not thinking about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You do want
Absolutely.
to be a billionaire one day.
But it's crazy. It's not to say that, right? But that what that means, right? Because you see when they talk about NVIDIA now, what do they talk about?
I don't know. Will you tell
What
me?
do they talk about usually when they speak about NVIDIA? That all the people that work there, what?
Billionaires?
Yeah, that's what they say, ain't it?
That's true. Yeah, that's very
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I think for me, with my business or whatnot, as that grows, just like when I hoop, man, I get so excited when I get a chance to throw a lob to one of my homies and they dunk it. You know what I mean? I think success for me would be that the people around me continue to grow, and that would be a huge win for me.
What does that signify for you, though? If you did get to that, mountaintop of being a billionaire, only few people have done it in the NBA and sports in general. But what would that signal? What was that signal for you?
I don't know. I think I got a lot of work to do to have that, but I think for me, it's always been seriously like about the collective. Right? Like seriously. Like I think it's more so for me about the people around me and the people who've been with me and what I can do to help them grow.
When it's all said and done, and the Chris Paul Collective is established, and maybe you looking to pass this on to your kids, name your business empire. Name the Chris Paul Collective in one word. When it's all said and done, and you're ready to hand it down. What do you want it to be in one word?
Man, I want it to be a family. Seriously, a family. I want all the businesses connected.
And it's a family and all the businesses connected. What would that mean?
That mean everything. That mean everything. I think the thing that I'm most happy and proud of over my entire career, right, is that my brother, my parents, my cousins, aunts and uncles, we're not perfect by no means, right? But for the in the grand scheme of things, we all still together. My family is still together. This business can be really tough. Money sometimes brings out the worst in everybody, and so does business. So I'm grateful to still be able to have my closest people around me.
And for those looking to do business with Chris Paul Collective, if it's a company or if there's entrepreneurs who are saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I want to put this under the Chris Paul Collective. What advice do you have for them about approaching you or David about doing business with them in the Chris Paul Collective? What would you tell that entrepreneur, that business?
Man, I would say let's talk. Let's talk. Let's do business. Let's talk. We open to any and all things, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Get you out of here some fun stuff, Chris, man, because you got to get back, and I know you want to ramp up. Season to be here before you know it, man. But $1 million question. You've obviously made millions and millions of your career, but for that NBA rookie coming in, how would you tell them what would you tell them about spending their first million? What to avoid?
First million. First million. Man, first million NBA rookie.
And
Uh,
what to avoid buying with $1 million?
what to avoid buying with $1 million? Some crazy jewelry.
Mm.
Don't need no crazy jewelry because $1 million. You gotta get your car. It ain't gotta be nothing crazy. I'm trying to think of what you're gonna buy, so then you know what you can't buy.
Two things you just hit right on the money: jewelry and cars. I've been in NBA locker rooms too, man. I've seen what the young guys like to buy. Jewelry
Yeah,
and cars can add up quickly to $1 million.
real quickly, real quick.
Yes, especially if you get those Bentleys and Lamborghinis and things like that. So stay away from the expensive cars right away in the jury. Because we asked CJ McCollum at the Enterprise Zone at the NASDAQ, man, and he was kind of mentioning, hey, listen, when I got in and I got my first few contracts, I was still living off my rookie budget. He did not try to spend beyond his means other than that. Did you use a similar technique to help you get to where you are when it comes down to money management?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was renting a really small house in Oklahoma. My first couple years, it was me and my brother. We were in a three-bedroom house. I got a car, right? I got a BMW. I got a BMW. It was a 750 Li.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But what I was fortunate, I had a shoe contract, right? I had a shoe contract, so I tried to do what I could off of that.
Living off of the endorsements from the shoe contract?
Yeah.
You played for the Spurs organization. Name one word if you had to say it, about what that franchise meant. Me and you, again, share Spurs stories. I covered the team. You played for them. We've seen the same people, R.C. Buford, Greg Popovich, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili was around there. But now that you've had a chance to see it both inside and out, name that Spurs organization in one word if you had to pick.
Legendary.
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 Legendary. Why legendary?
I got to eat breakfast just about every day with Manu Ginobili. I've known Tim Duncan since I was 12 years old, going to the YMCA, watching him, and getting a chance to talk to TD on the regular. R.C. Buford, the GOAT, literally. Unbelievable. R.C. Buford, you'll probably never see him anywhere. You'll never see him say anything about himself. But the 1 year I had with him, there's never been somebody like him. Like R.C., he just he's different. You know how all these kids be like they be like he's him or something like that, or like he different. RC was different, and I'll forever be grateful to him for how he had me that 1 year in San Antonio.
Yeah. As you're doing the Chris Paul Collective, we're talking during Black Business Month in August, man. Is there any advice that you offer to those, up and coming Black businesses that are still trying to, get themselves together? Chris, you've seen a lot of deals, both at the high and the low level, but still that knowledge is still need to be passed on. What advice would you give those up and coming Black businesses about how to navigate what they're going to see in the bigger business world?
Yeah, I've invested in a lot of Black businesses. A lot of them, obviously Pinky, Slutty Vegan, obviously Elijah Warner, Earl, Eastside Golf. But I think
Are you still with those Eastside and Slutty Vegan?
Yeah.
Okay, both of those are still under your investments with them.
I think the thing that I would say is you got to be persistent, right? You got to be persistent, and then you got to have a hunger sometimes that no one else has, right? And it's hard, it's tough, and you see this on just about every Instagram page when people talk about like inspirational quotes or facts or whatnot, but it's real. Like there's gonna be somebody who don't believe in you, but you gotta believe it, right? So when you go into these rooms or whatnot, you gotta have conviction in your heart, right? You gotta speak and take the time or whatnot that you have to do, and understand that everybody is not gonna like what you're presenting, right? And sometimes you have to be okay with that and go on to the next.
Yeah, I love it, man. We'll get you out of here on Good to Great, right? I switched it up this time, right, to have some fun.
Good to great.
Your best or your good to great moment with the NBA on NBC. Because Chris, man, you talk, man, this is the first time that you'll be playing on the NBC platform, because when you first came into the league, that NBA and NBC partnership was dissolved, it's gone, and now here you are, you're coming back as you again wind down your career. You're gonna see your final games, man, or some of them on the NBA on NBC, man. What is your greatest moment watching the NBA on NBC? Something that you still think about today? Is it that Jordan last shot in Utah, man? Because that's still memorable for me.
Oh, gotta be. Because I mean, you just watch them games, MJ shooting that shot or whatnot. But I've played long enough and old enough that I really remember the so like I said, being on the side where me and Adam talked regularly about the TV deal and all this different type of stuff. And we knew that once the deal got done, it was like, all right, this is a must, right? Must. So it's actually kind of crazy to know that as a kid watching those games and hearing that, I never even thought about that I didn't play with any of that NBC stuff. And now that's going to be dope.
That's right, man. Your kids get to see your memorable moments, man, with that same theme, man. Like we grew up. That's a moment, man. It really is. The NBA going back on NBC is like, don't ever do this again. Y'all got to stay together forever. This is a business deal that needs to last forever.
Because I used to wake up, you know what I mean? You watch the games, you used to watch the shows that came on. You used to watch Hang Time and City Guys and all that stuff that came on. So, yeah.
Yeah, man, listen, man, Ohh Dip Entertainment, y'all should resurrect it, right? Should get some NBA stuff going on again.
Like I said, we working on something.
Absolutely, man. Chris, man, it is always a pleasure catching up with you, man. Congratulations again on, again, returning 21 years. You're approaching, man. It's not an easy feat. And not only that, man, you're going back to the Clippers, but also congratulations on going into the Hall of Fame in your own way, man. You're going to be nominated or going in with that Olympic team that you won. You and LeBron, active players going into the Hall of Fame. that's big stuff, man. I hope you take a moment to kind of enjoy it.
Man, Jabari, thank you so much for taking the time, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate your platform, man. This is much needed, and I can't say thank you enough.
Absolutely. Chris Paul, the Chris Paul Collective, Enterprise Zone. You know where it is, Forbes.com. Thanks for watching.